Hi folks, good morning. It's Brian McMurphy here with Big Toy Storage and Sales. Today I'm standing here with Craig Marcum from Seatow of Venice. We want to do a little bit of thing here. Craig does a lot of rescues. He owns Seatow franchise here in Venice, and so basically what that means is even though Seatow is a national company, he is a franchisee at the local territory. So all the monies that come to him, or a majority of the monies that come in here locally, stay with him. He has a vested interest in keeping you happy as his local customers. Also, I've met Craig through multiple different functions for the community, and he's always donating time and boats and products. He's really big with the local community and does the Seatow life jackets at the boat ramps. If you need to borrow one, you got that. So, Craig, we're going to take a few minutes. We're going to talk about a few things today. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people as we get rolling here?
Well, I appreciate you having us. Big Toys is a great partner for us. We enjoy our partnership. We, like Brian said, we like to service our customers, and our Big Toy customers are a big part of that. We really appreciate everything you guys do for us here. Seatow Venice is a territory that runs from Midnight Pass in South Sarasota down to the Boca Grande Causeway Bridge. There is a network of Seatow franchises that goes all around the United States and even internationally. So when you do have a Seatow membership, it follows you everywhere you go. You don't have to be just in this territory. You can be in the Keys, you can be in Long Island, New York, you could be in the Bahamas or anywhere in the Caribbean, and we're going to have coverage for you in a way to get you help.
Okay. So even if somebody comes down from the north that's Seatow in New York or Michigan or whatever, and they come down and have a problem, you're still going to help them out?
That's right. We're going to help them out as though they were a local member here. There's not going to be anything. It'll be seamless, real easy to get them service and help.
Well, that's great. You know, that's one of the things that, you know, we deal with a lot of selling boats, and that's how I got to know you, is through this stuff. And one thing that I talk to customers that have called you, and one of the things that I hear a lot is how you help them without actually towing them in. Like, I had one customer that left the boat in gear, wouldn't start, called you for a tow, and you talked to him on the phone and kind of went through a few checklist things and realized that he had left the boat in gear, why it wouldn't start when he was sitting on a sandbar.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you know, with the way our business model is designed, we have an interest in doing what the boater wants. And the boater usually doesn't want his day to end when they call us. It's the worst thing they want. They want to keep going for several reasons. Number one, you may have an issue at half an hour after you put the boat in the water, and then you're done for the day. But if we can either over on the phone or on scene come out and get you going again, that's better for you in a lot of ways. You don't end your day on the water, and then you're not taking your boat in to get it serviced for something that was never an issue to begin with.
And so now that you kind of have an understanding of who Craig is and what they do with Seatow here, we're going to talk a little bit about safety on the water. A lot of people have heard about EPIRBs. Craig relies on them. His life depends on it, in his captains and all them. So I'm going to let him take a few minutes and discuss what they do, how they work, and the importance of them. So Craig?
Okay, yeah, there's two basic types of EPIRBs on the market, or locator beacons.
What is an EPIRB? I'm sorry, let me interrupt you.
An EPIRB, those letters EPIRB stand for Emergency Position Indicating Radio Beacon. And when we talk about EPIRB, we're mostly talking about the one that's on the boat. EPIRBs are designed for vessels only, and they go with the vessel. They don't go with the person. So what that means is that when you buy one of these, which can be bought for anywhere from about $300 to $1,500, depending on what features you get, the EPIRB is registered to go with the boat, and it should stay on the boat at all times while you're using the boat. There are two major categories of these EPIRBs. Type 1 category is automatic deploy, and that comes with a hydrostatic release, which is helpful if the boat goes down and you can't get to it. It automatically deploys the unit, it floats to the surface, and automatically starts transmitting a signal. That signal is picked up by satellites, and it's transferred into U.S. Coast Guard, or if you're in a foreign country, whatever the rescue authorities are there. The second type, type 2, is a manual deploy. We have a manual deploy on this boat, and different situations require a different mount, whether you're going to have type 1 or type 2. The reason we like to have the type 2 on this boat is because this door remains closed most of the time when there's inclement weather or if it's really cold. So if it were to automatically deploy, it would just be in the cabin of the boat and might not do much good. So we have a manual deploy. On this one, we just push the bottom button and it pops right out. Most all of these EPIRBs have the same feature in that once it hits the water, it will automatically start to transmit. It senses the water and knows it's in the water and will send a signal to the Coast Guard. That signal takes about 30 seconds for the Coast Guard to receive. And if you have registered your EPIRB, they will have your name, the vessel description, contact information for your family or loved ones, whoever you designate. And the Coast Guard will probably call those people to confirm your itinerary, to see if you're actually out on the boat, and if so, you know, to tell whether it's just accidental or on purposely it was set off. And then if you have any health concerns, they like to find out from your family about that too, so they might know what equipment and what resources to bring out to help you better. So that's our EPIRB. The other type we have is what they call a PLB, and that's a personal locator beacon. It's a little bit different in the effect that it goes with the person and not with the boat. PLBs, unlike EPIRBs, are to be used in the water and on land. Many adventurists that go out into the wilderness have PLBs for that reason. The PLB is available for them anywhere from about $200 to $500. There are different features that you can get. This particular PLB is an ACR rescue link, and the ones that we get have GPS built into them. And one of the things I want to back up and say here a little bit is that you can get either one of these units with or without GPS built into them. If you get it without the GPS, the Coast Guard has about a 2-mile radius of they know you're somewhere in that circle. If you have the ones with the GPS built into them, they're within 100 yards of their finding you. They know your exact location. They have a latitude, longitude of where this PLB or this EPIRB is. For that reason, it's good to keep it close to you. If you have an EPIRB or a PLB and it sets off and gets away from you, it doesn't do you much good. The rescue people find the EPIRB or the PLB and not the person. So those PLBs are great because they can strap right to your life jacket. And that way, if you do go in the water, or hopefully you don't go in the water, but either way, they're coming right to the EPIRB or the PLB.
So basically, I would take from that somebody that goes out offshore, particularly alone on the boat, should have a life jacket with a personal locating. So if they have, because I know they shouldn't, but a lot of people do, put the boat going offshore and they're back in the back getting their riggings ready, getting bait cut and all that stuff, and if they slip and fall over with this on, it would hit the water and you would be found even though the boat still had it on its course and still running.
That's a real good point. We had that exact situation happen about 6 months off of Englewood, where the gentleman went by himself. The boat, when the Coast Guard found it, the keys were in the on position and the boat was out of fuel. Evidently, the gentleman had fallen off the boat and was not able to get back to the boat, and they never did recover that person. So another scenario might be that you're on a big sport fish boat with 6 or 8 other guys, and men being the way they are like to go out to the stern and sometimes relieve themselves. And if that person were to fall in the water, nobody might ever see that person fall in, and it could be minutes or even hours before that person or someone realizes that that person is no longer on board. The boat could have traveled hundreds of miles by then, and the search could be in a thousands of mile square area. So the PLBs are great for that because they stay with you. The fact that they strap to the life jacket is even better, because we should be all wearing life jackets at all times we're on board. As a Seatow captain, that is our main priority is when we go out of safety. We always wear life jackets. Our captains all have PLBs. It gives us a much better sense of security when we go off board. We also equip our boats with the EPIRBs for a backup on that.
So now that we've discussed the EPIRBs and the importance of them and what they do, we're going to move on into the radios. So a lot of people don't really know how you go about hailing for assistance or anything. So we're going to go back in here. We're on the radio now, and Craig's going to go through some procedures real quick on radio and what channels are for what and so forth. So Craig?
The VHF marine radio has marine frequencies which are designated for recreational and commercial boaters. There is one main station, channel 16, which is termed the hailing and distress channel. That's the channel that you want to call anybody on to get their attention, to make maybe a navigational agreement on how you're going to pass somebody, Or even if you have an emergency, that's the main channel you want to get on to call the Coast Guard or for any kind of help. The big benefit that our VHF radios have over, for example, our cell phones, is the VHF radio will alert every boater in your area that there's an issue or that you're talking on the radio, so you get everybody's attention. Obviously with the cell phone, you're only talking one-to-one to one person, and if you need to call the Coast Guard for help, it's better that the Coast Guard and everybody around you knows that there is some type of a situation, and you could probably get help quicker. If your boat's on fire, if your boat's sinking, you have a medical issue, if you put out a distress on channel 16 by hailing Mayday, Mayday on channel 16, you're going to get a lot of attention, and you'll have a lot of people slowing down and stopping what they're doing and listening to them. The Coast Guard will answer you back, and they will ask what's the nature of your distress, and the conversation will go on from there. One of the most important things that a boater can know all the time is where he is. You want to know your latitude and your longitude. We talked a little while ago about EPIRBs and the fact that if they have a GPS built into them, they can do that. Sometimes the distress doesn't rise to the level of the EPIRB, and that's maybe when you're on the radio, and you want to be able to transmit to the Coast Guard and other boaters where you are, what the nature of the distress is, how many people you have on board, what the boat looks like, where you left out of, that type of information. So it's good to be prepared with all that information, but especially you really need to know where you are. We get calls all the time from people that call us and ask us for help, and when we ask them where they are, they say, well, we're somewhere off of Nokomis Beach, for example, maybe about a mile or two offshore, and we can see a big white house on the shore right directly in from us. For us, that describes dozens of miles of coastline, maybe even hundreds if they're not on Nokomis. So the latitude, longitude that you can get from your GPS, a lot of VHF radios have the latitude and longitude built right into it. This particular model here has position built into it. The real nice thing about that is if you do have an emergency, you can look up and see what your position is and call it out. Or you can even come up to the little red button here, which is the distress button, and this is called DSC, Brian, which stands for Digital Select Calling. Once I flip that button up, there are going to be resources headed your way from the U.S. Coast Guard, local law enforcement, Sheriff's Department, Police Department, Fire Departments. They're all coming. If your position is not built into that radio, they just know somewhere out there within VHF radio range there's some type of an emergency, but they don't know who it is or where it is. So we'll hear people on the radio a lot trying to find out where that person is.